The man who took an oath to do no harm just cemented his legacy at the center of one of Hollywood's most tragic medical scandals. We trust doctors with our lives, but when a beloved actor spiraled into addiction, his physician didn't see a patient in crisis. He saw an open vault. He sold out his profession, peddled highly controlled substances out of his car, and texted colleagues wondering how much his famous, vulnerable victim would pay. Now, the gavel has finally dropped, and the consequences are on the record. This is the story of Dr. Salvador Plasencia, or as he was known in the criminal underground that ended his medical career, Dr. P. In December 2025, he became the very first person to receive a federal prison sentence in connection with the tragic overdose death of Friends star Matthew Perry. Plasencia was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison after a sweeping, multi-year investigation. That investigation blew the lid off an underground drug network operating in the shadows of Hollywood. But to truly understand the depth of this betrayal, we have to look at the intersection of a man desperately fighting for his life and a medical professional who weaponized his prescription pad to cash in on that desperation. This wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated exploitation of addiction. Matthew Perry was universally adored, not just for his ear-defining comedic timing as Chandler Bing, but for his brutal, unflinching honesty about his personal demons. He turned his own pain into a public crusade to help others. He funded recovery facilities. He wrote books. He spoke at length about the millions of dollars and countless hours he spent trying to get and stay sober. According to the official autopsy report, Perry had reportedly been clean for 19 months. That is a massive achievement for anyone battling severe addiction. During this period, he was seeking legitimate medical help. The report noted he was receiving ketamine infusion therapy to treat depression and anxiety, and that his last supervised treatment occurred just a week and a half before his death. Ketamine is a powerful drug. It has been approved by the FDA as an anesthetic since the 1970s, and research indicates it can help some patients when administered as a strictly medically supervised treatment. But it is incredibly dangerous outside of a clinical setting. It creates a dissociative effect, separating the mind from the body, and is heavily abused in nightclub and party culture. The Federal Drug Enforcement Agency explicitly warns that an overdose of this substance can cause unconsciousness and dangerously slowed breathing. This is exactly why it requires a doctor, someone to monitor the vitals, someone to say no when the dose is too high, someone to protect the patient. But when Perry began seeking out off-the-books quantities, he didn't find a doctor willing to intervene. He found Dr. Salvador Plasencia, a licensed physician with an urgent care clinic in Calabasas. A man who had taken the Hippocratic Oath, and a man who, instead of providing care, recognized an incredibly lucrative mark. The descent was rapid and heavily documented. Prosecutors stated clearly that Plasencia and his co-conspirators took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves. The details of how they did this read less like a medical chart and more like a cartel ledger. Between September 30th, 2023 and October 12th, 2023, Plasencia sold 25 milliliters vials of ketamine, along with lozenges and syringes, directly to Perry and his assistant. These weren't clinical appointments. The prosecution revealed that Plasencia injected Perry with ketamine right at his home. And in an act that completely strips away any illusion of medical legitimacy, Dr. P also injected Perry in the parking lot of an aquarium in Long Beach, roughly 25 miles south of Los Angeles. Let that sink in, a licensed doctor administering heavy dissociative anesthetics in a public parking lot. But he didn't stop there. He wanted a hands-off distribution model. According to court documents, Plasencia literally taught Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, how to administer the drug. He turned an untrained assistant into a proxy nurse, sold them additional vials to stockpile at home, and walked away with the cash. Iwamasa later pleaded guilty in the case, becoming another casualty in this sprawling network. The inevitable tragedy struck. On October 28, 2023, Matthew Perry was found unresponsive at his Los Angeles home, floating face down in the heated end of his pool. He was 54 years old. The autopsy report released by the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner confirmed what everyone feared. The cause of death was the acute effects of ketamine, with drowning listed as a contributing factor. The investigation that followed ripped the mask off the operation. 5 people were charged, including Plasencia and a woman named Jasveen Singh, who was accused of acting as a ketamine dealer. 3 other defendants, including another doctor, agreed to plead guilty in exchange for their cooperation with federal authorities. But the most damning evidence against Plasencia didn't come from informants. It came from his own phone. In a text message revealed by a co-defendant, Plasencia called the actor a moron who could be exploited for money. This wasn't just malpractice, it was profound, malicious contempt for a suffering human being. That single text message became the focal point of the prosecution and the ultimate symbol of the Hollywood ketamine Wild West. When the sentencing hearing finally arrived in federal court in Los Angeles, the emotional toll was laid bare. The Perry family didn't hold back. They asked the judge for a lengthy sentence, pointing directly at Plasencia as the most culpable figure in the room. Perry's father, John, and stepmother, Debbie, submitted an emotionally shattering letter to the court. It read, "Matthew's recovery counted on you saying no. Your motives? I can't imagine a doctor whose life is devoted to helping people." They stated the loss had devastated them, erasing their next patriarch. Meanwhile, Perry's mother and stepfather didn't hold back their disgust, openly labeling Plasencia a jackal for repeatedly breaking his Hippocratic oath. Perry's mother, Suzanne Morrison, also spoke in court ahead of the sentencing. According to reports, she highlighted those text messages included in court records where Plasencia had called her son a moron and wondered how much he would be willing to pay. Plasencia, standing before U.S. District Judge Sherilyn Garnett, finally offered a statement. "I failed myself. There is no excuse. I can't undo what's been done, I know that. I should have protected him," as his mother said. "I'm just so sorry." Outside the courthouse, even the doctor's own mother was seen apologizing to the family of Matthew Perry. The federal prosecutors had noted that his plea carried a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison. Ultimately, the judge handed down a 30-month sentence in federal prison, along with an order to pay a $5,600 fine. Plasencia was immediately taken into federal custody following the decision, 30 months. For some, it feels like a heavy drop of the hammer against a licensed professional. For others, particularly the family who lost their son to a man they called a jackal, it feels like a fraction of the justice required for exploiting a deadly disease. Dr. P thought his medical degree was a shield, a license to operate above the law and turn a desperate man's pain into a personal payday. He believed he could play both sides of the fence, the respected Calabasas physician by day and the parking lot dealer by night. But stripping away the white coat doesn't leave an innocent man. It just exposes exactly what was underneath all along. The medical establishment is built on trust, and when that trust is monetized, the collateral damage is fatal. If you want to see more deep dives into the cases that shake the culture, hit subscribe. Because no matter how prestigious the title or how bright the lights, every star falls.